Greetings, everybody. It is the Doctor. Welcome, finally, to the 5th anniversary of Star Trek Online. It is now almost just about a full 2 days since the 5th anniversary has started in Star Trek Online, and I am finally able to get in the game without lag. Yes! This means we can finally play the new things like the Omega Particle stuff, the new mission. Finally, I can get in and explore the 5th anniversary of Star Trek Online and share it with all of you. So the goal of this first video is basically to go over what is new in the 5th anniversary, especially the Bridge Officer Revamp. I'm not going to go into that in depth right now because I need to figure it out and learn it a bit more myself, and then maybe I'll make a more in-depth video on it later on. But what I can do is show it to you, and we can see how you will slot your characters and how you're able to change out powers, and even how you get training manuals now to do that. So we'll just spend a little bit of time on that and go over that. Then I also want to play, of course, the Party Patrol, and I also want to play the new Omega thing where you have to go scan Omega particles and stabilize them and get the 40 commendations for that. And that's pretty much going to be what is available, other than the Dust to Dust mission, which I will do in a separate video. That's going to be a playthrough. I don't know how long that mission will take. If I need to, I'll break that mission up into separate videos. Otherwise, I will do Dust to Dust after I do this intro to the 5th anniversary of Star Trek Online. 2 days late, but not my fault. Believe me, I tried to get in this game to do this video sooner, and I was having, well, you saw it, the absolute worst lag I've ever had in the game. It was keeping me completely from doing anything. So here we are. I'm on Ensign Ricky, by the way. He is my engineer. He is my character that I use pretty much to show off Star Trek Online with. He is the one I did the playthrough of the Federation playthrough of. So I'm going to use him. I haven't done anything with him yet in the 5th anniversary, so he's all brand new and shiny and ready to go. When you hit U is where you will find all the new Bridge Officer reputation stuff, especially when you click on stations. This is now completely different. No longer do you have the Bridge Officer candidates on the right side. You now have to click this little button that does show, and that shows you the candidates that you don't have commissioned into your Bridge Officers. As you can see, I've got several Bridge Officer slots. I could commission these officers in here, and in fact, I'll probably go ahead and commission the Hierarchy one, because eventually I'm going to use him on some kind of ship. You know, a Tier 6 ship or whatever. I will definitely want to use an intelligence specialist officer. So this is what used to be the Bridge Officer candidates on the right side. It's now a separate window, which I kind of don't like, to be very honest with you. I like the whole, I like having being able to see all my Bridge Officers that are not commissioned just right here on the right side. I wish they had kept that. But anyway, it's a separate button, so just know that you may have a whole bunch of candidates that are not commissioned yet, so you just have to keep up with that by hitting that show button so that you know that. Of course, it tells you have 5 right there too. But it's a whole separate window now, so just one more step to get to those candidates. Okay, otherwise, this is it. It has changed. This is my starship stations for my Bridge Officers. Now, when I logged into my main character, this was completely blank. It apparently had reset all of my Bridge Officers and everything on one of my ships, and I'm fearing it may have done that on other ships as well. I had to go back and reset everything and fill everything back in, and it was a pain, to be honest with you, to have to redo all that, and I had to redo all my hotbar buttons in space. That was a big pain too. Basically, you select your Bridge Officer stations from your list of Bridge Officers just like you did before, except now it just has a new UI for it. And to be honest with you, I don't really like this. I liked it better when this was in a column, when it was all columned, and then you could tell which one was a commander station, which one was a lieutenant commander station, which one was a lieutenant station or an ensign station real easily, because all you had to do is look at how many boxes there were on each thing down the column, and you could tell real quickly and easily which one was a commander station, which one was lieutenant commander, lieutenant ensign, etc. The way they have it now, the UI is just a little more difficult, I think, to see which station is what. So I think that's just a UI layout thing. If they changed it back to the way it was, where these were in a row, not a row, but a long column as they used to be, I think that would be better. See, even if I resize it, it doesn't change that fact. I wish it would go back, because it was just easier to see what was what then. Because, see, it's showing like all 4 boxes on each one, even if it's not a commander station. And that's just a little confusing, because it's hard to know. Like, this is an ensign station, but you really only know that by the fact that there's this little pip here. And then you only have the 1 box here, but it's got like 3 empty boxes for no reason. Just a UI element I think they could really change there to make that a little easier to see. But what's unique is when you select an officer, when you select your officer, you click on change abilities. This is where the fun begins. So for my tactical officer here in the ensign position, I only have 1 power available to this character right now. That is a high yield 1. In the secondary position, I only have beam fire at will 2, but I could have more powers. I could have other powers trained under the ensign ability for this bridge officer, and then all I'd have to do is click on that power, and it would slot that power into that ensign ability slot real easy. Let's see if I have any on here that have multiples, so that I can kind of demonstrate that. I might not yet. Yep, here's one with multiples. So right now I have emergency power to shields 1 selected. That's this power. But ooh, look what happened. It completely reset everything when I clicked that. Holy crap. Okay, that sucks. Oh, I can get it back by hitting reset. Thank goodness for that. So it looks like, I don't know if that's a bug or if that's intended, but if I want emergency power to engines 1 to change this power, okay, there it went. It changed it now without messing up everything else. That's what it's supposed to do. So if it messes up everything, I guess try hitting the reset button. Although, I guess that's what I had there. I hope that's what I had. I don't even know if that's what I had now. Okay, now it's switching the powers back and forth. So you can see now how much more flexibility this adds to the bridge officer system. If I have multiple powers, all I got to do is click in here, change abilities. I can change them on the fly, and it hopefully won't mess up everything else. So that's kind of the ability there of the new bridge officer system. Again, I don't want to go too in depth on it, because I'll do a whole video about it, but just know that that's where you need to go to make sure your stations are set for your starship. So before you go into space, double check that your powers are how you want them, because they could have changed after that patch, and all the icons have changed. That's going to take a little time to get used to as well. All the icons changing, yeah, I don't recognize them obviously, so I mean, I guess I can tell that's a turret and that's a turret. What is that? I don't even know what that icon is. What is that icon? My hover thing isn't working. I thought I had turned that. Let me check an option here. Hide tray, tooltips, off. There we go. So that is a support drone. See, that didn't even look like a support drone to me, but I guess it is. I can tell that's going to be orbital chasing beam. But yeah, some of these icons I'm going to have to get used to. Quick fix. That's quick fix. And I guess you guys are too. What I wanted to show you is down here in the exchange now they have training manual. And when you click that, you've got engineering manual, science manual, and tactical manual, intelligence and command. This is where you can pick up manuals to train your officers and abilities. Well, one way. This is not the only way, but this is one way. This is a good way. For example, you can search a very rare, and then you'll get the like level 2 and 3 versions of these. As you can see, they can start getting real expensive. But in this way, you can basically search for whatever powers you want and then train that to your character. Like here's Aceton Beam 2, Quantum Mortar 2, and on and on and on. Support Drone, Quantum Mortar, Fabrication, Shield Generator, Combat. So that's how that's done now. And there's levels 1, 2, and 3 of each of these. Extend Shields 3. Go to Science, you get the same thing. Viral Matrix, there's Gravity Well 2. Gravity, there's Tricorder Scan 3. So you can see how that's done. And there's rare versions of these as well. Feedback Pulse and all that. Level 1 and 2 rare manuals. Even version level 3, there is tier 3 rare or blue manuals as well. And I'm guessing there's even uncommon ones. Yeah, there's uncommon as well. So not a whole lot of those right now. And maybe even common. Yeah. So I wonder if there's ultra rare. Nope, no ultra rare. I wonder if there's any epics. No epics. But that's one way you can search manuals. I'll just show you the other way real quick, is to go to the actual, what used to be the bridge trainer, still really the bridge officer trainer, because he just sells manuals now. So same thing really. I mean, he still will train your bridge officers. We come right down here, and now it looks like this. So you have tactical space, tactical ground, engineering space, engineering ground, science space, science ground, intelligence space, intelligence ground, command space, command ground. So like for example, here's engineering space, and here's all the training manuals for it, and it goes all the way up to, you know, Aceton Beam 2, Eject Warp Plasma 2. So you don't get the tier 3 abilities here, you get the tier 2 abilities. But it does have a couple of very rares. The ground has more very rares. Cover Shield 2, Quantum Mortar 2, Equipment 2, Support Drone 1, Fuse Armor 1, Combat Supply 1. Very rare. So what the neat thing you can do is, and I asked this question and this seems to be the general consensus, if you wanted to, because these only cost energy credits, and they're pretty cheap too. I mean, look, only 10,000 for the highest one here. So what you could do is you could take a character, for example, I could take my Saurian engineer character that I use for space. I could take him, and where's all of his powers? Skills. This is now where you look at skills for your character. I could buy every engineering space power on here. I could start with this training manual, Engineering Team 1, and I can buy all the way down to this one, Aceton Beam 2. And if I wanted to, I could take all of those training manuals and make this character learn all of those things. At least that's what I hear you can do. Default space, default ground, specialization. But I'm not sure now that I'm looking at this, because it says, you know, I can learn that power, I can learn that power, and that one and that one. But does that mean that's all I can learn on this character? No, see? Okay, yeah. As you click each slot, yeah, I see everything is actually there and available for you to learn. So technically, you can click on each of these, you know, power slots. This is Ensign. This is Lieutenant, Lieutenant Commander, and Commander. You could learn everything. You let's say I had the manual for that, and 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 that. I could learn all of these powers. And all of these powers would then be available to this one bridge officer. And then when I go to stations, I could select that bridge officer, do change abilities, and then in that slot, all the powers that he would now have, they would go down here in a column. I can select those powers in and out of those slots. So technically, you can have every single bridge officer power for that specific career that the game supports. You could have one bridge officer, one TAC, one engineering, and one Psi that has learned absolutely every technical manual in the game. And then all you would have to do is slot out those powers here under change abilities into the things as you need them. This means you could technically have a whole lot less bridge officer candidates or bridge officers commissioned here to run your ship, basically. See, I need one tactical, 2 engineer, a science, and then I'm a universal, which I'm going to use for attack. So I only need 2 tac buffs, 2 engineering, and 1 psi buff. That's all I need. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 buffs, and all of them could have their powers associated with that career. The tac ones would have all the tac abilities possible. The engineers would have all the engineer abilities possible, and then the science one would have all the science abilities possible. And that's all the bridge officers I would ever need for this particular ship. And then I would just, if I want to change powers, I wouldn't need more bridge officers for that. I wouldn't need separate bridge officers. I would just go to that bridge officer, do change abilities, click in the slot that I want here, and select the power I want for that level, for that rank. Bam. So you can see how there's a lot of potential here, and that is something very unique. So this whole bridge officer system may get a little flack at first because people are trying to figure it out, but in the end, there's so much potential and flexibility with this thing, and this ability to have pretty much every technical manual trained on one bridge officer, like an engineering knowing every single engineering power, makes it so you don't have to have as many buffs. So that's the bridge officer training stuff in a nutshell. I'm going to look at it between different characters and make sure that's true. I'm going to look at it on different career types, and also I'm going to look at it on the Romulan and Fed side, Romulan and KDF side, and make sure that holds up. And I'll do a whole video about it, and we will look at the different characters and the different classes and the different factions and see how all that works. So that's just a tiny little overview on the bridge officer system, a summary. But now hopefully you can see what's possible and what's available with that. And there's, I think, going to be a lot of potential there with that bridge officer system. There's also the quick ship thing, which I can't really try out now because I don't have another ship to like put on and try out and all that stuff. But one day when I'm able to do that, I will show off the quick ship thing. I'm sure many people are experimenting and using that right now. Basically, it's just a way to take all of your old equipment off of your previous ship, and it just automatically puts it on your new ship, which I think is really cool, and I'm glad they implemented that. Not much else has changed up front that's real noticeable. Obviously, all the icons are what we're going to have to get used to, all the different... Oh yeah, there's a new command officer here. So they've added, of course we had intelligence officer, commando, and pilot. They have added a new thing called command officer for your specializations. So this is just another bit of trees you can start working in. Remember, as you pass 60, you're still gaining skill points, and as you get to what would be 61, 62, and on and on and on, they turn into specialization points. And you can, of course, put points into that, and there are some good things here that they've added some new things. Forward march, 5% increased sprint speed, 2% exposed chance to team, 2-second duration for exposed effects inflicted by team, peripheral coordination, incoming flanking damage reduced by 7.5% for team. So this is like a whole team thing here. Plus 20% exploit damage to team. So a whole new set of trees to work in. Obviously, they want you playing the game a lot because the only way to earn those specialization points is to keep leveling up beyond 60. And the only downside to this is you can still only have one active primary and one active secondary. This command officer takes over the primary, so you can either have intelligence officer as your primary or command officer as your primary. Then you can either have commando as your secondary or pilot as your secondary. I wish they would give you a third. I wish you could have 3 of these enabled at one time, but right now, command officer or intelligence as a primary, and then commando or pilot. So you only still get 2 active at once. you really have to decide what you want to use. I put all my points into intelligence officer, obviously. So that is just a quick overview of some of the biggest changes to Star Trek Online for the 5th anniversary. At this point, I am now going to start the Q stuff. I may go ahead and make a separate video for that. We'll see how timing goes here. But I am now going to start the Q things, the new Q missions they have to get us some swag, particularly that ship.